Hello men, and welcome back as we come to chapter 5 and look at the topic, how to be a good dad. We started the chapter by quoting Harry Chapin's song, Cats in the Cradle. This song was written back in 1974 and hit the top of the charts in the same year because it touched a deep chord in people's lives. Children bought the record for their parents, and wives played it to their husbands. Ministers used the story in their sermons, and business leaders, school teachers and newspaper columnists cited the song's lyrics on Father's Day. The song, if you happen to know it, tells the story of a dad who was too busy with work and other interests to be there for his growing son, but promised someday later, yes, that they would get together and have a good time then. But sadly, the months and the years slipped by, and that time never came, and the boy grew up to be a man, largely without his dad. And his dad missed all those precious opportunities to have time and influence with his son. Then in the end, the tables turned, and when the father now wanted to connect with his son and make up for lost time, his son, now married, was too busy with his own family and work to have time for his dad. And it was then that the father realised that his son had grown up just like him. You know, this song touches a deep chord in my heart every time I hear it being sung. It challenges us as men to think again about our role as fathers and the priority of family life. It urges us to seize the moments, to be there for our kids when they need us most. There is a limited window of opportunity to be directly involved in their lives because they grow up so fast. We will always have work to do, but we'll not always have our children under our care. And the relationship you establish with your children when they are young will determine the kind of relationship you have with them when they are older. Most men who become dads want to be good fathers to their children. I don't think any normal man would think, I want to be a bad dad and screw up my children's lives. But you see, good fathering doesn't just happen automatically. It's something you have to make a priority and work for and even fight for. Don't leave parenting to your wife. Don't miss out on the joys of being a good dad. You as a father have something very unique and essential to bring to parenting that your children really need. Dads do matter. Our children need us. Over previous decades, the focus has often been on the importance of mothers in the raising of children. But more recent research has revealed how much fathers really matter and how much they determine the self-esteem of their children and the way their kids turn out. Research is in fact overwhelming in showing that dads have to be involved to raise happy and well-adjusted kids. Now, if you are a father with sons, you are the one to answer your son's primary question, do I have what it takes? Am I really a man? No one else has the power and influence to answer that question like you have. And you are the one your son needs through his teenage years to model for him manhood and to help him cross over that bridge into adulthood. By mid-teens, a boy's interests usually will be pulling him in all kinds of directions out into the wider world, and your influence will lessen. So it's those early years from infancy right through to mid-teens are absolutely essential and foundational in your boy's development and a critical period that you as a dad cannot afford to miss. Don't neglect this opportunity and leave it too late. And if you're a dad with daughters, you may think, well, I can opt out and leave this side of parenting to my wife. But not so. While mothers as the same sex parent will provide the primary model for their daughter's growth into womanhood, dads are also very important in helping shape their daughter's self-esteem how she views herself, how she views men, and the kind of man she should marry, and her outlook on life in general. Girls deprived of a father's love and affection will seek to find it somewhere else and usually make poor choices. You are your daughter's first love and her first image of manhood. Every man in her life will be compared to you, whether consciously or unconsciously. And you are the one to answer your daughter's primary question. Am I lovely? Am I worth fighting for? And the way you answer that question will shape your daughter's life and her future. In the chapter, we look at 5 fathering essentials which I tried to apply in the raising of my 3 sons. And each of these start with the letter A except for the last one. The first one, attention. Give them time. To be a good dad, you have to be there for your kids and you have to start early. Even with a busy schedule, you need to make time when you give your children undivided attention. You cannot have quality time without giving them quantity time. If you have a busy career, you need to make time when you can get properly connected and involved with your children. If work is too pressured, you may need to cut back on overtime or even change jobs rather than lose connection with your family. Work will always be there, but your kids won't. In the midst of a busy schedule, I tried to take time to enjoy my kids. We would play together, read bedtime stories to them, or help with their homework. It also meant taking them to sports events, to music lessons, going on family picnics, bike rides, or camping, or fun times together. Such activities don't always cost a lot of money, but they will cost time. In fact, someone has said love is spelt Time. It is fun times especially that your kids will always remember. So attention first, then secondly, affection. Show them love. Most parents love their children, but in the midst of the hassles and busyness of life may not take the time to really show it. Cuddling, hugging and kissing are expressions of affection that need to start early but can take place right through to adulthood. This is what helps children grow into secure and happy adults. And remember, love for your children is shown most clearly when it is made personal. Each of your children needs to know that you love and prize them individually. It's not enough just to say, I love all my kids and they know it. You need to communicate to each child personally by your words and by the time you give to them that they are special to you and that you love them. The third word is affirmation. Give them approval. Give your children as much praise and encouragement as you can for right behaviour and good performance. To value it, they need to earn it. So look for positive things that you can affirm rather than just pick on the negative things to criticise. Let them know that you love them unconditionally for who they are, even if you're not pleased with everything they do. Nothing is more powerful in the psychology of childhood than affirmation and approval. If a child doesn't get this constantly, he or she will wither like a flower without water. It's as basic and as simple as that. Show your love for them by your actions, but also make sure you say it in words. I love you, son. I love you, sweetie. I'm proud of you. And then the fourth word we come to is authority. Exercise discipline. The way we show our children we really care is not just hugs and kisses and showering gifts upon them. It's by setting clear boundaries and exercising firm discipline when these boundaries are crossed. Children need boundaries and feel secure when boundaries are clear. This is an essential part of parenting that we cannot afford to neglect. It can be difficult and they will test us, but don't fail their test. It is the only way to teach children how to grow into well-adjusted, happy and secure adults. We'll explore this further in our next chapter. And so we come now to the fifth and final. Now, it could be A again. We could put actions, but I've put example so that we understand what we mean here. Show the way by your example. And so the final fathering essential is leading by example. You as a father are the model that your sons and daughters look to. No matter what you say, they are watching what you do. Let them see that God is important in your life and that your faith is real. Let them see how you love their mother and the affection, kindness and respect you give her. And be a good example in other areas of life as well. How can you be a good dad? 5 fathering essentials. Attention, give them time. Affection, show them love. Affirmation, give them approval. Authority, exercise discipline. And example, show them the way. If you apply these 5 principles, you will have done your part and will leave a lasting legacy for your children that they will value and cherish forever. Now we're going to come to our men's group and join in with them for a little while and see what some of the men had to say about this particular area of family life.
In study 5 about being a good dad, there's some great points about 5 main points about being a good father, and there's a couple that stood out particularly to me, and I think it could be a lot to do with just the personalities of my children. But there's one in particular I find, having 3 boys, that I don't want to be ignored, and that's affection. I want my boys to be affectionate with me and for me to be affectionate with them, and for it to be a completely natural thing. The study really outlines that here well, about how important it is for sons and dads to have physical contact. And it's can be anything from wrestling around on the floor and playing footy, but also just a hugging and even giving them a kiss. I mean, the embrace from a father. My father passed away when I was a teenager, so I haven't had that embrace from my physical father for so long. I couldn't imagine what it would feel like for my kids to have to miss out on that now. Now I've started that. I didn't really have it with my dad, so I think I've become very intentional about it. And I don't want this world to tell my boys what a man is. I want to tell them what a man does, because I'm their father. And so I think it's that importance in them knowing that a man is X, Y, Z from me, not from the world, because they're copping it from every which way but loose now about who they should be at a younger age. And that affection thing has taken a hammering about what a man should be or how he should act. And that then also turns over to when they start, they'll eventually start dating, hopefully, one day. And they'll then see that the positive role also in that regard as well.
In terms of the attention side of things and giving your kids time, I've been pretty lucky in my jobs over my life in that I've got home at quite a reasonable hour and had a fair bit of time on my hands to potentially invest in my kids. But I've been challenged through this study that I feel that there could be more specific time tailored to the activities of each kid, because every child's different, and mine are all got their own little likes and dislikes. And I think sometimes for me, I maybe do something that will just cover everyone, I feel, whether it be playing on the trampoline or that, whereas some of like my son, for example, would probably prefer that I kick soccer ball with him. And I think for me to be a bit more specific in doing what each individual child wants and interacting on their activity rather than me thinking that I know the activity that they want me to be involved in, I think is something that I can really work on. Because I don't think quantity of time has been a problem for me, and I've been very lucky like that. But I just want to up the ante in spending that one-on-one time, whether it be playing with my daughter and her dolls, it might sound strange, playing with my youngest son and his cars, or kicking the soccer ball, you know, rather than just going and say bike riding and that will keep everyone happy. Actually, maybe listen to them a little bit more and tailor my time that I have to what they really want.
So as far as affection goes, I have three girls. So when it comes to showing them affection, I think it comes a bit more naturally for me. But my eldest girl is growing up a bit now, so she's 14. So I'm actually just going through a bit of a transition time of how to show her affection in a safe way and in an appropriate way, I guess. But I found myself recently just pulling back a little bit, thinking, I'm not sure how to go about this. And I've had I didn't have a chat to her about it, but I've found that she's now coming up to me for hugs, and it's not just the little sideways hug anymore. It's a hug. You know, she comes in and nestles in, and I give her a big hug, and I'm used to, just for a little while, she'd sort of give me a little sideways hug and then go, and now she just stays there, and it's different. And I went out with her the other day for coffee, and she's growing into a young woman, and we were chatting, and we haven't always connected really well, but I intentionally took some time out and we went out for coffee, and I guess that's a bit of a grown-up thing to do. And we were just chatting, and she did a lot of chatting, and she was talking, and I was just sitting back there at coffee looking at her, and I thought, wow, I actually like you. Like, I like her. And it's not a love thing. I just enjoy relating and enjoy being with her, and that's a change, and I love it. That's great.
The other thing that really stood out for me there was, again, example. I know we've spoken about it before in a few other areas, but just how important my example is to them. There's times where I've got 1,000,001 excuses why I should do what I want or get away with not doing the right thing, or come home from work and I'm tired and it's hard. But just to know that they're watching me constantly. They're like the sponge. You know, you've heard people talk about them, call them a sponge. And so I need to show them intentionally every day a great example. I owe it to them, and I owe it to the rest of their lives. And one of those examples is my relationship with Jesus. And I'm trying as hard as I can. It's not easy. Again, with all the excuses, time, family, but that relationship with Jesus, I think, is paramount. They need to know that he loves them from an early day, and they need to know how to communicate with him and talk to him. And I see that's one of my roles as a leader and as an example to my kids, is to show them and introduce them to Jesus Christ. And it's beautiful when they start to get it. It really is touching moments.
One of the blessings I had early on, I was pretty lucky that for me, I wasn't very career focused. What I was very family focused. I had this really strong desire to be a good husband and a good father. And that meant I did a lot of things that were right. But because of my own brokenness, I got a lot wrong as well. One of the areas I probably got wrong the most was how I dealt with my anger. And I could fly off the handle at ridiculously little things. and do a lot of damage. And when I started to examine that, well, what was a better thing than that? What was a way to respond? I actually discovered more often than not when I was really angry, it was because the kids didn't know how to do what I was expecting them to do, or they had to do things slower than I would have liked, or I had expectations that they would function like adults. And so instead of, and what I discovered was this role of teacher. Instead of being really angry at them, my job was get alongside them, help them to learn. And that's been a great discovery. And I've got to tell you, kids are really resilient. I used to fret over some of my big mistakes, honestly, really grieve it when I got it terribly wrong. But if you surround that with a lot of love, and then they bounce back, and probably we'll have some conversations when they're adults, and I want to be open to that about some bits that I know I got wrong. But this idea of being a teacher it dawned on me halfway through, and a lot to be saved in that. One of the joys of being a father is actually when you get it right. You know, you actually deal with a discipline piece beautifully. You have the right attitude, you come alongside them, you've got teaching in mind, and you just get it right. And it's so good. And I think we need to have a picture of what we might be doing wrong, but we also need a picture of what it looks like to do it right. And I didn't have a lot of those pictures myself, and that's where we need other men to be helping us, older men, other men that can talk about their own experiences. And just as we are now, we're feeding off each other.
Now we come to workshop time. Some of you may feel you have failed to be the kind of dad you could have been or should have been. So these questions may be difficult for you or make you sad. But don't despair. These questions may show you how to redeem lost opportunities. There may be still something you can do. And if possible, men, let your wife read this chapter too and discuss the responses you made to these questions with your wife and see if she agrees with your assessments. This could make a difference to your family life as she supports and helps you to apply these fathering principles. So have a good time in your discussion now. Go into the next chapter as we continue on in the parenting area, and I'll look forward to being with you again next week. God bless you all.